Very, very dope today. So I definitely want to formally start it. Everybody, welcome to the Save and Sip show. Today I have on one of the most influential slash helpful men I've ever met in my life. And I know a lot of people can say that. Alan Johnson is one of the top performing real estate brokers slash investors in one of the most competitive markets in America, in the world. You know, DC, metropolitan, Northern Virginia is a booming market, and Alan is deep in the game on both sides. So, Alan, how are you doing today, my brother?
I'm doing awesome, man. Thank you. I don't know if they understand how long have we known each other and how did we meet?
So, 12 years, say about 12 years, and we met through the basketball. We met through basketball. Alan came and assisted for an AAU team that I was playing on when we were just getting started, higher level out of Prince William County. And he came and, volunteered his time to help. Maybe I was maybe 16, 17. And I mean, that was, we first met. And then in the past 9 to 10 years, it's just been a growing relationship.
Yeah,
That sounded about right too. It was a higher level, right? Yeah.
that's right. That's right. It's funny, man. I'm now starting to mature, right, in age, and I'm starting to have a lot of bright brothers that I planted seeds in, just bloom. And you're one of those guys. I had a conversation with a guy, and he said, "Man, you remember when you told me such and such, man, it changed my life, and I did X, Y, Z, and it was a tough moment. It was a pivotal moment." He's a business owner now.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to tell him, honestly, I don't remember the conversation, but I remember like me being a part of his life, and I remember, and I'm glad that he remembers the conversation more so than I did. And
Wow.
I've gotten to that point in my life where, I'm really reaping the benefits of a lot of seeds that were planted 10, 15 years ago. And you're just one of those beautiful seeds that was planted. You did a lot of the work, but I like to think that I did a little bit of fertilizing at the
Yeah.
times that you needed it.
Oh man, see that's you say fertilize and start thinking, beautiful lines, and the topic of this today is around, of course, business and real estate and everything that comes with it. So, what better way? And another thing just to harp on that is, when we talk about save and sip, yeah, we have a big, we're advocates of building generational wealth through, traditional investments like stocks. Of course, real estate, y'all will learn a lot about that in the next 30 to 40 minutes. And the SIP piece, people sometimes overlook our acronym, which stands for socialize, invest, and prosper. And when we talk about people sometimes waiting to become successful, then give back, Alan is a true testimony of somebody that's been giving back throughout his entire journey. And, that's dope because the success is exponential, is magnified throughout his community. I have at least 10 brothers that I can call right now that Alan has helped personally over the past couple of years in the DC metro area. So Alan, seeing that Save and Sip, this is a big financial party. We're gonna start off with what we like to call the pregame.
Okay.
Something new for the audience. And the pregame is, it is what it is. I know you're a proud alumni of where?
Oh, come on. You already know. Come on, George Mason University, baby.
George Mason University. So we got a patriot on the call, man. And in the pregame, I'm sure Alan has attended many beautiful parties. And the pregame is where people come and get to know a little bit about each other before it turns up too much. So Alan, can you just give us a little background on yourself, man? Where are you from? What's your story,
Yeah.
that got you to where you are?
Nah, yeah. So thanks for having me first and foremost. I never want to start these without giving thanks. So I'm very grateful to be able to spend, some time with you. I'm originally from a small town, Louisa County, Virginia. I always say I'm from Charlottesville because no one ever knows where Louisa County is unless you know. Yeah, man, I grew up the proud son of just two really hardworking parents. I grew up watching my dad start his first business when I was probably about 8 years old. And it was a landscaping business, cutting grass. And he grew that business to one of the larger landscaping businesses in that Charlottesville area. I watched my mom work not only a full-time job, but support my dad as he grew that business and then morphed into real estate. When I went off to college, he was started buying his first piece of real estate. By the time I was out of college, he owned about 30 to 40 doors down in Charlottesville. And this comes from a man who didn't know how to read in high school, taught himself how to read after high school. And just, it's one thing to talk it, it's another thing to walk it. And he just walked just being a role model in every way in my life. So, for the younger generation out there that are about to have kids and have kids, understand that what you do is going to affect the people that you love the most, and they're not just going to listen to what you say. They're going to listen to what you do. So I watch my dad get up early in the mornings at 4:30, 5 o'clock every morning to sharpen his blades, to go out there to start his business. I was able to work with him during the summers and in the evenings. Really hot, grueling work, but it taught me a really great work ethic, and that's what I brought into real estate. I'm married. Went on to George Mason University. I was the prototypical kid that loved college too much, so I spent an extra year there just because I was having so much fun. And got out of George Mason and went into a sales job. So I went into selling used cars. Shout out to Browns and Mazda Fairfax over across from Paul VI High School. I was there for 2 years. And honestly, when everyone was going to these corporate desk jobs, I always went the other way. I was always the guy who couldn't sit at a desk. I was amongst the people. I wanted to talk. I wanted to do. I wanted to be, and I wanted to control my income. And sales was the best place for me to be able to do that. And 2 years later, out of sales, I went to buy a house. And another gift, Trevor, that I got from my dad was he didn't tell me that I had a graduation gift until it was time to use it. And it was $10,000 towards the purchase of my first home. And you talk about a generational gift, right? Giving your son his first $10,000 down payment was major back in 2001. That was pretty much all the money I needed to buy a house. And went to buy a house, had a horrible experience, Trevor. Didn't have a me out there. Everyone looked at me. Imagine Northern Virginia 20 years ago. There weren't a lot of agents out there like me. And I got stereotyped and just didn't get the level of service that I needed to be able to execute on buying a home. So for all intents and purposes, I gave up on buying a home.
Wow.
And the next day, I walked into the car dealership. Don't you know God has a way of showing up and showing out? The first person that walked in was a young Latino realtor named Lydia. I took that as a sign that I needed to go ahead and finish this process. So I told him I was going to buy a house with him. And 6 weeks later, I bought a house with him. But during that 6 weeks, I went to Nova and got my real estate license. And decided that anyone who looks like me or anyone who, I went to school with, who needed someone who could relate to them, but also was going to give them professional service, was not going to have the excuse of not being able to find a realtor. And, I think we're up to 1,500 homes later, and I think we're closing in on $1 billion worth of real estate sold in my career. We are the number one real estate team in Prince William County, number 18 team in the state. We'll sell north of $100 million worth of real estate this year. Yeah, man, it's I get to work with my wife. It's a blessed journey. It's a purpose-driven journey.
Wow, man. A lot in there. So, I mean, one of the first things that really latched on right there was you ran into a problem. And a lot of people listening to this, entrepreneurship is extremely hot right now, right? It's not new. Entrepreneurship is what creates jobs. And the fundamental thing about entrepreneurship is when you run into a problem, either for yourself or for somebody else, you try to solve that problem. And you being a young man fresh out of college had the problem of not being able to find a real estate agent that took you serious. Not only did you, by the grace of God, you met a man that was able to help you buy a home, but instantly you started to solve the problem you knew others would run into. And now that resulted in over $1 billion worth of home sales, $100 million in the past year, and all those other amazing numbers that, you just put out there. But it all started with you proactively saying, look, this is a problem. I'm not going to be the last African American or, person of color inside of this beautiful real estate market area. So let me get the ball rolling, and it looks like you never look back.
Yep, never look back. And I don't know if I went into it to solve a problem. I think I just went into it just using a lot of common sense. Like,
Yeah.
I was hanging out with guys. The beautiful thing about when you're in the right circle is you start talking about different things if you're in the right circle. So, I remember when I first started selling real estate, they had like newspaper ads, like literally on Sunday, you would open it up and you would circle the open house and you would go. Um, and at the car dealership, we were having, even though there were a bunch of sales guys, there were a couple of us that just were having higher level conversations about things like real estate and what the next level looked like. And I just knew that I wanted to take that next step, and I knew that there was an opportunity there. Sometimes you got to trust your gut.
Wow. Okay. That is very important. I just left Norfolk yesterday, and I was thinking about you because I was just telling folks, talk to the people that invite you and pull up. I definitely want to share the story, just more so around when you started to invite me up to your real estate different events that you were having right in Alexandria at your office, and I'm like, man, this guy's clearly, I didn't know how successful or not successful you were, but just to, when somebody invites you somewhere, you got to take that leap of faith and have those conversations, because it may not pay dividends right away, but in those coming years, the return on investment is crazy. So, sorry, Alan. So, a country boy that decided to go to Mason,
Yep.
that had a difficult time finding a realtor, and now has, led one of the largest real estate teams in the DC metro area. And I'm sure the success is going to be even crazier over the next decade. Can you kind of tell me more? I've heard you mention before that a lot of realtors aren't also investors. You're both, right?
I am.
Okay. A lot of our audience just has some, it's a beginner slash all the way to advanced. What did that process look like when you went from a realtor to an associate broker to an investor? What was that thought process, and what were the difficulties you ran into?
Yeah, so honestly, it wasn't that difficult.
Mhm.
People always try to make it seem more than what it is. I mean, everything in life is like got some challenges. Like,
Yeah.
you got an option to look at the challenges and look at it as something that's going to impede you, or you got to look at it as an opportunity to say, okay, I can, number one, either I can get better, I can figure this out, and in the end, it's going to be something that I can conquer. So I came into real estate with an investment mindset first because I bought a house before I ever got my license.
Okay.
Right. So I knew fundamentally, also watching my dad, that there were different ways to get into real estate. I always get, hey, I want to get into real estate question from a lot of guys, right? I always get that question, and I always ask them, like, what do you want to do? Do you want to get into real estate sales? That's a job, right?
Okay.
And a business can be made out of that job, right? Because you got to go and help someone buy a house, but you got to go find someone else to help them buy another house, and that's how you get paid, and that's how you get you get income. Or you can own real estate, right? And if you own and hold real estate, you only got to buy that one house, and then you own it for a long time. You buy another house. You don't have to go out and, like, once the sale's done here, it's over. Here, the sales keep on happening every month if you do it right. But I always knew that I wanted to be balanced. I always knew that in my business, it would give me a level of competence that I felt like that my clients needed. And it rarely am I sitting in front of a client that owns more real estate than I do, or rarely, I would say 99%,
Wow.
don't own nearly as much real estate as I do. And that, I don't care how old they are, or what background they are. And I also knew that I wanted authority, right? And when I can sit in front of a client and they're like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this, or I'm nervous, I can say, look, I've been, it's a difference between sympathy and empathy. Like, I empathize with where you are because I've been through it. I'm thinking about either buying or selling a house right now, and I'm going through an issue like you. And for me, I always knew that I wanted to be a seller or a buyer because that was what real estate was all about for me. Sales was just a pathway to become a better real estate owner. And I knew that the better I got at sales, the better I was going to be at investments, and the better I got in investments, the better I was going to get at sales.
Huh. Okay. Very, very interesting. That's so nobody can say, yeah, while you're at the table or your team is representing a client, whether they're buying or selling, they can't say, Alan, you don't understand because you flip both sides of the coin.
Weekly. Like right now, if someone said, "Oh, I got an issue about my home. I'm worried about pricing." I'm putting up one of my houses on the market tomorrow, right?
Okay.
And I'm going through the same angst that you are about pricing. I can price it at this number, but I really, really want this number. But I made a decision that I'm going to price it here because I want to move on and buy another piece of real estate. No one can ever come to me and say, I've got a tenant issue and I haven't been there. Well, I own 20 doors. Like I know tenants. I turned this year 4 of my rental properties. Like I know what that feels like. No one can ever say that, this is a whole lot of down payment you don't understand. Well, I put 20% down on most of my properties. I overstand.
Overstand. Okay. All right. So, man, for the people out there, man, are most of your properties late? Let me ask you that actually. With owning over 20 doors, with selling thousands of homes in such a high demand competitive area in the DC, Southern Maryland, Northern Virginia area, are most of your investment properties right there? I know some people want to invest, digitally. I live in Virginia, but I want to buy a property in Vermont. Are most of your properties right in the area that you're living?
Yeah, 90, yeah, most of my properties, 95% of my properties are here, right? Only reason I'm falling into a property outside of my area is if I have a great partnership with someone else and they understand that market. So I'm not blindly going to buy into a market that I can't touch.
Okay.
I'm a firm believer that there's not only the deal, but the anxiety of getting to the deal. And I believe that there's always going to be something that you got to work through on the deal, but I don't want to have to work through the anxiety of learning and knowing if this is a good deal or not, because I'm not knowledgeable about the area and I'm not close to the area. So remember when you went up to Baltimore, we had that conversation as you're moving up. I told you, we had a conversation about this is a market that I think is going to be good for you because you can know the market.
Yeah.
Like living in the market. And it didn't take you long to figure it out and to multiply yourself up there.
Yeah, I remember that conversation like yesterday, and it's logical, right? And that's why, like you say, don't overcomplicate things. Sometimes it's not that hard. If somebody more seasoned than you says, buy an area that you understand, that real estate can be very nuanced, right? When somebody asks, how's the real estate market? Where are you talking about? What street is it on? What zip code? It's not really a blanket question. So having those real insights, because it's a big purchase. It's not like ordering a t-shirt from Zara.com. It's buying a property. So you may want to see it, be able to physically touch it before you buy it.
Here's a telltale sign. If you got a good realtor who's got a multifaceted, holistic mindset. Mm-hmm. If you go to a realtor and you ask them, how's the market? And their pocket answer is either good or bad, then they're probably not, maybe they're not paying attention to you. Mm-hmm. But the correct answer is it depends.
Okay. It depends.
It depends. It depends on what you're going to buy, where you're going to buy, how long you're going to hold, what you're going to do with it, what's the use, what's the type, what's the cost of your money. There's so many factors that need to be weighed to whether it is a good time to buy or sell. And if someone's not asking you those multi-layered questions, you may get frustrated when you run across a true professional, but it's that professional is like a doctor, right? Mm-hmm. They're not going to go in and say, oh, my knee's hurting. They're not going to say, oh, your meniscus is torn. No, they're going to ask you a bunch of questions. They're going to put you through some tests that may be a little uncomfortable for you, mm-hmm. to make sure that they know that they're giving you the correct diagnosis.
Wow. Okay. Very well said. All right. So we warming up, and the pre-games, a few more people at the party now. So a lot of people want to ask more about these numbers, like how much money do I need to have saved up? I heard you mention 20% that you put down a lot of your investment properties. There's I don't know if you want to call it a myth, but I want you to do some myth busting right now. for a first-time home buyer, do they need 20% of the actual ticket price of the house to buy it, or is that a myth?
Yeah, so this is a good time to introduce the book, 50 Things Your Real Estate Agent Should Tell You But Probably Won't. And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about this later, but I wrote in here, there's a chapter in the mastery of the basics of real estate, number 23, a young person's plan for real estate wealth.
Okay.
And it is the exact same plan that I told you, right? So the way I was able to acquire real estate without having to put a significant amount of money down in the beginning was that I bought it as owner occupied property with an investment mindset.
Okay.
So I bought property where I was able to put less money into it. So if you're buying a piece of real estate, you're buying it one of two ways. Mm-hmm. Owner occupied, meaning that you're moving into the property, or non-owner occupied, meaning that you're an investor. If you're an investor, you do have to put 20%. In fact, as the market is slowing down in some places, you got to put 25% depending on what type of asset in place. Okay. If you're buying owner occupied, you can put no money down, right? You can put 3% down. You can put 5% down. It just depends on what type of real estate you're purchasing. So I always tell people who aren't married to a house that they should be buying entry-level real estate and moving in and out of it every 2 to 3 years, right? So you're essentially stepping up. So like you in Baltimore, right? When you bought your first house, how much did you put down in your first place?
3.5%.
Okay, so you put 3, and then you could buy another owner occupied space, right? So you're moving out of state, you're buying another owner occupied space, right?
Yep.
And how much are you putting down there?
3.5%.
Right. So now you own 2 pieces of real estate that you didn't have to put 20% down, and you're just stepping your way up. So that does need to be thought out, but that is the basic model about how someone over 5 years or 6 years can acquire 2 to 3 really good income producing properties without having to put a whole lot of money into it.
Wow. Okay. So very well broken down. So 20% is more so for the investment properties. Alan, just rewind it if you had to. That is a clear blueprint for anybody looking to get into real estate, maybe as a first-time home buyer, or if you just purchased the house before and you want to now duplicate the process, you're looking at another property, go owner occupied if the numbers make sense for you.
Yeah. Rent out the space that you're at, right? And then go buy something a little bit bigger. So that's what I did. I bought a townhome that I forgot. I used it was all the $10,000 that my dad gave me. I used it for a down payment and closing costs. And then I moved up into a bigger townhome 2 years later. And then I moved up into a single family home. All of those were owner occupied, and they were all good properties that were worth keeping and turning into cash flowing opportunities when I was moving out of them.
Nice. Okay. So you mentioned, your dad helping with gift that, and you've been able to absolutely steamroll it. You've been able to steamroll that in your own personal portfolio. You've been able to take your knowledge and give that to brothers like myself who've executed your game plan. And now it's a gift that keeps on giving. I've heard you mention before, because you have younger children, that you tend to like a 15-year mortgage versus a 30-year mortgage. I know that is a decision that anybody buying a home, let alone if they're trying to make it an investment property or not, has to decide on. Do I want to pay this off in 15 or 30 years? What's your thought process on those, on that decision?
Yeah, so I didn't start thinking 15-year mortgages until I started getting closer to retirement age, right?
Okay.
And as I started to get older, I knew that timeline was getting there quicker than I thought it was going to get there. So young people, time goes really quick. I remember being in my 20s. I remember being in my 30s. I'm in the middle of my 40s now. Time goes, and I'm getting closer to 55, and that was the target age that I was going to retire and go walk beaches for a good time and figure out what God had in store for me after. But I'm at the point in my career where I don't necessarily need income right now, right? Mm-hmm. When I first started, I put everything into 30-year mortgages because I could cash flow better under a 30-year mortgage. And I was building up my income, so that extra cash flow was good, right? The banks needed to see that I had cash flow in properties. As I've gotten older and my income has gone up, I don't necessarily need that extra $200-300 a month from that door, right? So I've converted that into a 15-year mortgage where I'm getting less cash flow, but I've got 10 more years to pay off quite a few properties, right? Or like some of our properties are about to get paid off, next year. And what I did is I just stair stepped them. So one property we paid off next year, the next year another property is going to be paid off, another year, the next year. And as I start to phase into, more less, well, I'll always run a sales business, right?
Mhm.
But as I phase into where I'll look towards that property to give me more income, I'd rather get that income on the tail end than on the front end. And that has always been something that's great that I've modeled. I hear a lot of other people model it a little bit differently.
Mhm.
But I'm looking at, my number was always like, if I can get $20,000 a month positive cash flow, I can figure everything else out. And we're there. And $20,000 back then seemed like a whole lot. Now that I'm here, it's not nearly as much as I thought it was. But having those properties being paid off now really will make a big difference in how we make decisions, the freedom to make decisions as in our family.
Okay. Okay. No, thank you a lot for breaking that down. That 15 versus 30-year mortgage is, yeah, it really comes down to what you think is best, and that can change. That can change as your income, your responsibilities change. Okay. So another question that, a lot of people come to me and I say, well, let me ask Alan this. When somebody has the decision to buy versus rent, right? They're, let's say, 25, maybe 30 years old, and they've saved up enough money for this down payment. And they're like, I don't want to be stuck to this house, or maybe, I'm, I'm thinking about moving again, or if I put all this money into this house, I'm financially going to be back at the bottom from a saving standpoint. The decision to buy versus rent, is it difficult? When do you know? What does that look like with some of your clients, would you say?
So if anyone, and I told you this, anyone who's making a certain amount of money, right?
Mhm.
You're not just buying real estate to live in. You're buying real estate for a tax shelter,
Okay.
right? So I've got guys who, in fact, we got a client who just signed a big contract with the NFL team, and we had a consult with him. He's buying in the city, and he has to buy because he needs the tax write-off.
Okay.
If he rents, it is easier, but he's starting to have conversations with his financial team, which we're part of, his real estate, to answer his real estate questions. Either you're going to buy or you're going to pay it to Uncle Sam. So you might as well buy, right? And once you start to understand that real estate is not just I'm living in it, but it's also tax shelter. It's also, if you play it right, it's long-term wealth if you buy and hold the right piece of real estate. And I think people underestimate the practice of making decisions, right? And there are a lot of people out there that are one decision away from a massive breakthrough. And you buying real estate is just practice making a financial decision. And if you can't make a decision to buy a piece of real estate that is you got to put 10,000 or 15,000 into it, then how are you ever going to make a decision to partner on a deal that's going to be worth millions of dollars? You don't just instantly start to make great decisions. No,
Yeah.
you practice making decisions, right? So for you, think about it. Think about I remember having a conversation with you where you were thinking about whether you should stay renting and buying. Had you not practiced that first decision, how much more comfortable are you on your third and fourth house now making decisions?
Yeah. Yeah. Much more comfortable. It's okay. It's like I've been here before, right? It's like I've been here before, and if not, the people to call. That's why you have a trusted experts to hit up. So I like the way you put it. It's a decision. Nobody just hops into multi-million-dollar deals. You got to maintain a track record before you can even get there. So okay, the
Yes.
tax shelter piece is big.
Yeah, and no one ever talks about it because but if you are making like, and I've had conversations, if you are making $80,000, right, a year, and you are renting, you are number one, you can buy, and
Mhm.
number two, you should try to figure out how you can buy, right? And you should be having conversations with not just people that you know. You need to be having conversations with people that are where you want to go, right?
Yeah,
And I just remember I 2 years out of school, I was making about $70,000, and I remember my accountant and my dad both saying the same thing. All right, you need to go buy a house because you
yeah.
want to put money on the table.
That makes a lot of sense. And the amount of leverage, you and I had a conversation before around just pure leverage, and that's what makes real estate such a beautiful asset class. So right now, a lot of people are being introduced to the stock market. A lot of people being introduced to this crazy cryptocurrency market, and then you have this very strong, withstanding real estate market, another asset class out here. Now, with stocks, with cryptocurrency, when we talk about the term leverage, if I want to go buy a share of Apple right now, I need to bring the amount of cash to buy a share of Apple or buy a share of Amazon. There's not as much leverage. But when we talk about a $300,000 home that we can get into with 3 to 5% down and still end up reaping the benefits of the equity, would you agree that just the amount of leverage that people can get in real estate is what makes it one of the most beautiful asset classes?
Let's just go through. We haven't practiced this, guys, but I know Trevor, so I know that I can get some good information. So the property you bought in Baltimore, how much was it?
First one was $175,000.
Okay, so 175K. All right, cool. So write down 175K for me. And you said you put approximately 3% down.
Yep,
And how much is that?
that is $7,000, 5750.
Oh, you remember exactly how much you
Yeah,
put. All right, including your closing costs, how much was it?
including closing costs, 11,000 in whole,
Okay, so 11K. How much is that property worth now?
$250,000,
Okay, so what's the difference between 250 and 175?
$75,000.
Okay, so 75K. All right, did you do any improvements to the home?
Just some clean outdoor landscaping, no major improvements.
So let's say you put another 4,000 into it, maybe.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, so you put $15,000 of your cash into this home, and you have $75,000 worth of what's the percent between here and here?
So we got a 5x return, $60,000, and I've been here less than 3 years, and that's a 5x return, $15,000 to $75,000.
And you haven't, and we haven't even talked about the tax benefit, the write-offs that you've had.
The write-offs, exactly, the write-offs every year.
Right. So when you're looking at real estate, I think it's very important for people. Real estate is a different mindset in investing. It's a long mindset,
Yeah.
right? And we've made flipping so sexy, right? We made flip, and there is a point in time where flipping is important sometime in some people's real estate portfolio. But I've learned how to hold long, and if 5x return on a piece of property, and that's not even. And think about this: when you go to rent that property out, will you cash flow?
Certainly,
How much?
certainly.
How much you think you'll cash flow?
Cash flow should be about $600 to $700 per month.
So six. So guys, just take 6,000, multiply it times 12 months, and then multiply that times 5 years. Now you're talking about probably a 7x return.
Yep.
And that's not even including more appreciation on top of that, right?
Yep.
And more tax benefits. So I just think if you want to be a smart business, holistic business mind, that you need to have different types of real estate. And smart investors and smart business minds understand the value of owning good real estate for long periods of time.
100%, 100%. Don't, everybody out there, do not let those numbers go over your head. A 5x return. I know there are a lot of people, especially during this pandemic, because the stock market is a little out of whack. People are making good money. Things don't always keep this theme. A 5x return in the stock market over 3 years is really unheard of. Most people, pray for 7, 10, 15%. And so not only is a 5x return not normal, but we're talking larger numbers when it comes to real estate. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. So when the things appreciate, they appreciate at much higher, at much higher rates than your stock market portfolio probably does. The average millennial Gen Xer does not have $175,000 in their stock portfolio. And so if it increases, then it's usually not the same as real estate. So we talked about this 3.5% down, having this leverage. Would you say how many of your clients sometimes leverage their existing workplace retirement accounts, like a 401k or 403b, to get into these homes? And would you say, sometimes consider that if you don't have all the cash?
Over 50% leverage.
Over 50%?
Over 50%.
Wow.
Listen, we don't come from, I was blessed to have a dad that gave me, a down payment, but I'm an anomaly, right? Many home buyers leverage their TSPs, leverage their retirement accounts to buy good real estate, right? They get so caught up on the fact that I've got this much money in here and I want to keep it in there, that they don't understand that they're not using the money to buy something. They're using the money to invest in something.
Yeah.
Right? So all you're doing is shifting your investment, right? You're not draining your account. You're just shifting your how you're investing the money. And I'm very careful with my words. I say good real estate. Like, you have to buy good real estate, right? But here's the beautiful thing about real estate. Like, even good real estate goes down, but good real estate always over time appreciates. Always over time appreciates. I remember I bought a property that was an investment property in Arlington right at 2006.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought it for $250, and I wish I should have bought the whole block, right? But I bought it for $250, no, $275, and I remember in 2 years that piece of real estate was worth like $185, something like that. Wow. And I could have panicked, but I didn't. Right? I knew it was going to be a long-term hold. I knew that I was going to put a rental. I had a good tenant in there. I had to work through some kinks. Finally finding the right person. Well. 10 years later, no more than that, 15 years later, I sold that piece of real estate that I bought for $250 for $525.
Wow.
Right. And that's just a testament to holding real estate long, right? I could have panicked, and I could have looked at the fact that 2008, 2009, things are going really, that property wasn't worth what it was worth, but I bought good real estate, and over time, good real estate will hold its value. Right. It's going to have some market fluctuations. That's okay. But it only becomes a loss when I sell it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it only becomes a gain when I sell it. But, I'm always going to try to hold good real estate. So get with someone who can talk to you about good real estate. What does good real estate look like?
Yeah, that is a key adjective. Good real estate is don't guess. Don't just work with any don't just work with anybody and have them point you in the wrong direction. It's a good approach that you really got to plan out when buying these properties. Okay, so
and pay for good real estate. Your good real estate is oftentimes not going to be discounted, right? Yeah. But you'll be glad that you paid full price when it's time for you to sell it for full price if you buy good real estate.
Yeah, that is a very good point. That book you mentioned earlier, 50 Things Your Real Estate Agent Should Tell You.
Yeah, 50 Things Your Real Estate Agent Should Tell You, but probably won't.
Okay. When did you write that? What inspired you to write that?
I wrote it. Well, I'm dyslexic. So for me, it was really about challenging myself to do something that was hard, right?
Yeah.
I wrote it because I knew that I was always getting a lot of questions about real estate, and as our business grew, I didn't have the time to answer everyone's questions, although I wanted to.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just use it as a reference guide, and that's the way I wrote it. I wrote it as in vignettes. I wrote it as like quick hitters. There are chapters in here, like if you're a buyer, right? So literally you could go into this book, steps to buying a home that 99% of home buyers don't even focus on, the art of negotiating, secrets realtors use when they buy their own homes, repairs versus renovation, secrets most new home buyers don't want you to know. If you're a seller, tips for a first-time home seller, the risk of overpricing, commission doesn't matter, when the highest offer isn't the best offer. If you are if you're an investor, I've got chapters in here. Preventative maintenance on a rental property, tips for turning over your rental property. Should I rent my home or sell it? Buying the perfect rental property. If you're hiring a contractor, how to pick a good, reliable contractor. Renovating to sell versus renovating to rent. Quality matters. Mr. and Mrs. Do-It-Yourselfer. If you're a real estate agent, right, and you're in the game, you want to be better. You hire me to make great decisions. Why your agent lies to you, right, is one of the chapters. Real estate ain't sexy. We get paid. What we get paid doesn't matter. I wrote it because I wanted people to be able to get into my mind in like 5 to 10 minutes or less and know what the next question should be, right? And we're oftentimes one question away from where we need to be. And I figure if I can eliminate 1 or 2 questions from someone, then I can get them to the more intelligent question that can get them the answer that they really need.
Wow. Okay. I mean, I absolutely love the book. I read it twice. I love the title of it because everything you just said is so true. Sometimes when you buy a book, you're not buying it even for the whole book. You're buying sometimes for one line that can change your life, literally. One paragraph that makes the light bulb go off and you may need to close the book and come back to it in 3 months. And that was after buying a couple properties, even having the blessing of doing a deal with AJ. My first deal with AJ this year was fun. I'm going back to this book and I'm like, it's here. It's all in here. And it's just one of those things that just stays on your bookshelf. And when you need it, because it's time for another transaction. Let me go look into some knowledge from an expert who has done it from both sides as an agent and an investor.
Yep. And, I didn't write this book for profit. I wrote this book for our nonprofit. So Be a Blessing is our foundation. We go into Title I schools in Prince William County. You're a Prince William County, alum, resident. It's home for you. And just going, I've always known that my purpose is driven to purpose. That my purpose in real estate is driven to a bigger purpose. And we take our clients back. We go into these Title I schools and do mentoring with 4th and 5th grade boys, talking to them about, confidence, about goal setting, about simple things like hygiene, bullying, like how to handle conflict, how to give love, how to receive love, how to be, just how to handle things. And, it's just been a blessing to be able to use my platform to be able to bless other people who have nothing to do with real estate. And, I'm a firm believer that God honors people who do things with their talents, and who do positive things with their talents. And I just, I've been blessed to be in the middle of all that.
Man, I love that. That's perfect. I'm glad you bring up Be a Blessing, and it really segues into the final portion of this, what we really just call the after party. If you're still here, then it means you're grinding. You're just taking all this wisdom in. So, got to Be a Blessing Foundation. I always see you on social media preaching about getting up and having that personal time to develop yourself. With all the success that you've had to this point, the thousands, millions of dollars of real estate that you've sold, bought, what still has you waking up at the wee hours of the morning and grinding when you really could probably take as many years off as you want and go down to the beach somewhere? What keeps Alan going?
I think we're all on a beautiful journey, as the late great poet Nipsey Hussle said. Man, we're all, actually Stolly said that. But we're all on a beautiful journey. We're all on a journey for enlightenment and just feeling like that we're growing. And I have a hunger to try to be better every day. I have a hunger to share knowledge. I have a hunger to receive wisdom. And to give wisdom. And it's just something like I wake up with no alarm clock. Like I don't ever remember having an alarm clock. I used to wake up with, in the 4 o'clock hour. Now I'm more in the 5 o'clock hour. But there are days that I get up at 4:50 or 4:45 or
Mhm.
5 o'clock. But I always use that time for my personal development, right? So I'm never getting up wanting to do work on anything other than myself. And
Uh,
that excites me, right? When I can go do work on myself, when I can work out, when I can meditate, when I can drink a bunch of water, when I can read and write, when I can listen to a podcast. I feel like that my soul is really quiet during that time. So I'm really ready to receive the messages that the Most High has for me. So, for me, the morning routine has been huge. It's been big. It's probably been the most important thing that I've done for my business.
mm,
And the most important thing that I've done for my personal development is simply getting up early and spending my time just trying to get better. And when you do it on a consistent basis, you don't feel like that you got to catch up and do a whole bunch of stuff. Like, because
yeah.
I'm doing it. I'm doing it brick by brick. It's one quote this morning. It's another quote the next morning. And oftentimes what I get, I'm sharing, right?
Yeah.
As soon as I get it, I'm putting it out and I'm sharing. And then when I'm sharing it, not only am I internalizing it and proving to myself that I understand it, but I'm also giving a gift to the people that are around me.
Yeah, no, that is a true testimony. Mamba mentality, man, is you got me thinking about a Kobe quote when he talked about by the time everybody else is up, I've shot a million shots, I've grinded, and so it's so hard to catch up to me because I've worked out, I practiced 3 times in a day, man. So really some Mamba mentality on this call. So I mean now, Alan, for everybody that may be interested in buying, selling real estate, we have about 50% of our audience, right there in the Fairfax County, Prince William, Southern Maryland. How can they find Alan Johnson? How can they find the AJ Realty team? What are their steps to get in contact with you?
Yeah, so on Instagram, the Nova Real Estate Guy. Email address is connect@ajteamrealty.com. Connect@ajteamrealty.com. Check us out. I know you caught us on HGTV, on House Hunters, in Prince William County,
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago. So if you haven't seen the episode, check out the episode. It's what is the episode called? It's Be My Husband, Not My Agent. And we were able to have two of our team members on the team, myself and our commercial agent, and he was buying his property, Josh. And actually Josh is a Potomac grad as well.
Yeah.
And a Potomac and an ODU
And the
grad.
ODU grad.
And he got his MBA at ODU.
Wow. Shout out to the
So
Monarchs.
yeah, man. And then you can always buy the book. The book is on Amazon again. 50 Things Your Real Estate Agent Should Tell You, but probably won't. So between those three places, you guys should be able to get enough Alanisms to be able to feel like that you're smarter. And yeah, you can always reach out to me. You guys know Trevor. Trevor is I always say you gotta have a group of mentors, people that are above you, and you gotta have five solid people that are here. But you also need to have five solid guys that are here that you can pour into, that are going to do something with what you tell them to do, right? So I always tell guys, I don't mind you being in this five, but I'm going to hold you highly, highly, highly responsible for doing what I tell you to do. And if I find that I'm pouring into you and you're not doing what you need to be doing and accepting the wisdom and growing it, then you can't be in that five.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm putting too much into this five down here for it to be wasted.
That's so true. It's a lot of responsibility. If you want the blessings, the responsibility comes with with managing them and multiplying them. So super dope, man. I really appreciate you coming on. We're looking to do for everybody that made it out to Save and Sit DC, our first in-person event. Clearly the pandemic had things postponed, but everybody that came out, appreciate it. We did our best. Alan was on vacation, but Alan, man, when we circle back and do an in-person event in Northern Virginia, DC, we hope to have you out, man, because a lot of people really want to hear from see and meet the guy in person. And can we have you out, man, next time? If you
Yeah. Listen, man. This year was the first year. It's funny. We went to Chicago. I shared, and this is all script, guys. I shared my 13th year wedding anniversary with my wife and my business partner. So her and I work together. We've been working together for about 6 years. She is probably not probably, she is the most important business partner God put into my life, and life partner. But we realized that we had been on some type of vacation for every month of this past year. And that's one thing that I will not compromise on. So if I am here, I will be there. But I love vacations. Vacations are our thing. We love the Caribbean. We love going to see new places. But you just keep doing what you're doing. Just keep bringing good people together. And if I'm here, then I would love to be there.
Much appreciated. Much appreciated. Well, party over for today. Everybody continue to rock with us at Save and Sip. Alan, thank you again, brother, for coming on and sharing so much from your upbringing, from